Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw. Played 11 seasons in the NHL with the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. This is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. We come to you twice a week to talk all things hockey and sometimes a little cooking, sometimes a little Labor Day tradition. Because Tom just revealed to me before we went live here that he was researching for reasons that are still unclear to this moment of why we have Labor Day. And,
well, there's nothing else to talk about as far as hockey.
Tom telling us about why we have Labor Day and when it started.
Well, it started the first Labor Day parade was in New York City in 1887. It actually became a federal holiday in 1894. But it's to celebrate the labor movement, American labor movement. But it's also they celebrated by 80 other countries around the world, including Canada. So 80 countries. But I thought it was kind of just a U.S. thing, but apparently I'm incorrect on that. So
well, labor makes the world go around.
Yes.
As much as we live in a world, really kind of a, the entertainment world, really, that we live in, you and I, where, our interest is about guys playing, kids games.
Yeah.
But they're doing it for multi-million dollars. But what makes the world go around is the, textile industry and the steel industry and the manufacturing of goods that goes on. Like, just think how much different it is than when you and I were kids, where, if you wanted a new pair of hockey skates, you went down to the local hardware store or to the sporting goods store and you picked them up. And now you get your size, what brand you want, you get, go on Amazon, you order them up.
Custom made, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal to get a new pair of skates too. So I grew up on a farm where obviously my father and grandfather ran the farm, and my mother early on, she actually worked as a telephone operator where she actually had to pull out the plug and plug it into the everything. So what would you have done if you were not a sports writer? What would you have done for work?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I have really no skills.
That's not true. And the only problem with you is, it's not a problem. The situation is that your wife has many skills,
but
you don't have to utilize your skills.
No. My wife does have many skills, and that has become a crutch, to be honest with you. Early in our marriage, as my wife, she's acquired all these skills over time, and early in our marriage, like we've talked about this before, I did a lot more than I do now because she just got so much better at it than I was, So, and I learned early on, like, and people say, well, like when we buy a car, my wife goes and does all the negotiating because she knows what she wants in a car, and she's a very good negotiator. I'm terrible. I'm terrible. I always say she should represent me when I write books and everything because, I end up just taking what they give me. I'm just terrible. I just can't go in and say, give me more. I just have trouble.
Sounds like she's probably organized, does her preparation too, right? She knows what the value.
Oh yeah, she does. I mean, she was one of the very first people that I know who, and now of course everybody does this, but when Google came in and she realized that anything that you need to repair, you can Google it, and there's usually some kind of video. And I remember when it hit home for me is right in the middle of a hot summer, our air conditioner conked out, our central air, and her and I went online, and there's a how-to video that allows you to go outside and walk through the issues of a air conditioner, and then based on that video whether you need a new one or it can be repaired. And I remember when we were done with it and we had made the decision that we needed a brand new air conditioner, I said, boy, where was this when we first started? When we were married, and you're just at the mercy of auto mechanics and
totally.
The guy with your furnace. I mean, your furnace is a $5,000 item, and the guy shows up and he either goes thumbs up or thumbs down about whether it can be repaired or whether you need to plunk.
We really don't know. Yeah, we can be totally.
Yeah.
The worst one for me is getting your oil changed. You go to one of those quick lube places to get your oil changed, and it's always, you need a new filter. The filter's dirty or not. And I wouldn't know whether it's dirty or not. I finally found a mechanic I really trust, and I go back to him even if it's a little more. But that's the tough one. Find a mechanic that is going to rip you off.
This local radio show back, when you lived in Detroit, I don't remember, they had Stoney and Wojo was on, and they had this weekly thing of what's your beef. And everybody would call and say, my beef is, and it's usually about sports, that either the Red Wings power play wasn't any good, or the Lions quarterback couldn't hit the receivers and everything. But one of my beefs in the real life world is I just hate it when you go and you buy a major appliance, or you buy something, and immediately they're trying to sell you insurance.
Oh, I know.
I always say to the guy, I said, call me old fashioned. I said, but I expect when I buy something that it's going to last longer than 12 months. Yeah. Like I think if you're trying to sell me insurance, and he would say, well, you never know, something can go wrong. Well, I'd say, well, but it shouldn't go wrong.
Right.
If I buy something from you, it should last longer than a year.
Absolutely.
Right. But it might not. Well,
and then inevitably, whatever goes wrong, I'd done that before. I bought the insurance, but whatever goes wrong was not covered on the insurance. Right. Yeah. It's always like that. And then what they do is, if like I've had my car, I've got over 100,000 miles on my Yukon, and they're constantly calling me up saying, okay, this is the last time we're going to call for your auto insurance. They've been calling like that for the last 3 years, saying it's the last time we're going to call. So,
yeah. You got 100,000. You think that's a lot. I've got 286,000 on my Honda.
Nice.
So, nice. My last Honda, my son inherited that, and it lasted 300 and some thousand miles.
Right. Now, are you pretty good at getting the oil changed and all the fluids and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we're reasonably good at it. I mean, I'm not perfect, but like I don't have it written down where as soon as the odometer turns, I run. But we take care of it. We've had the same. I'm a creature of habit. I've had the same barber, the same doctor, the same auto mechanic for over 20 years, and this guy has now it's actually his son now. He passed away. Takes care of our cars, and they're just terrific at it.
Nice. So, okay, so let's go back to that. So what would you have been then? You say you've not got no skills. That's not true. You have skills.
I was a banker when I was in college. I was a teller, and I was in the junior management training program. I only was in it because the money was good, but I knew I wasn't going to be a banker.
So you could have ran a bank then. You should be.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was in the program to become a bank manager. I started out, I was a bank, as a bank, you start out as a bank teller. As soon as I turned 18, because I worked in a bank when I was a senior in high school.
Right.
And so when I got out, as soon as I turned 18, I could be a teller. So I was a teller for a couple of years. And then the idea would be that I would, become an assistant manager and then move up. So probably I would have become a banker, would be my guess.
Okay. All right. Well, given that my father, he sold the farm and became a firefighter, so I'm assuming I would have been a firefighter. I'm pretty sure I would have been. I loved hanging around all the old guys who come to the house, and it was back in the days where they were sitting around drinking their beers with the brown bottle and driving their snowmobiles, and the tough old guys. Yeah, they were good.
That especially when you're a firefighter, particularly in a major city, but I think wherever you are, that is a dangerous profession. In major cities too, where you just have those huge, buildings, and you're going up into them to try to rescue people. That's, that in the police officers, that's both those are scary.
Yeah, they're tough old guys. I remember ping pong was a big thing. We had a ping pong table in our basement, and the firefighters would come over, and I was like 16, 17 years old. I thought I was the toughest guy on the planet. And we're playing ping pong, and I'm getting mouthy with these old firefighters and everything. They did, after a few beers, they didn't appreciate it too much. And I realized maybe I wasn't as tough as I thought I was. Yep.
Yeah, it's funny you should bring that up. When I was a kid, I hung with a family. They had a lot of kids, and they had a pool table in their basement. And we played when I grew up. I remember playing poker when I was in second grade. That's the way I played a lot of cards, and the father of that family, he worked at a factory, and he'd bring home those football betting cards where if you picked 4 winners, you got 9-1 odds. I can remember doing that when I was 7 and 8 years old as well. Okay. Give them your dollar and all that kind of thing. But one night we were playing pool, and it was me and my friend Tom against his dad and his older brother, who was in high school. And Tom was a great shot. I was a good shot. And the father was a decent shot, unless he had started to be deep into the old Milwaukee. And that night, he was deep into the old Milwaukee. He was a Wisconsin guy. And by 3:00 in the morning, they were into us for $30 or $40, which was a lot of money. in the late 60s.
Right.
And he gave us a speech about how we thought we were hot stuff, and we're not a pimple on the world's rear end. And I still remember that speech, by the way. And the next day, in the light of day, and when everybody was a little more sober, we settled out of court for, I think he gave us, $15 each for the $40 loss, because we had taken advantage of.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny you tell that story, because my father and I were playing ping pong in the basement one day, and I was really getting cocky. We had some good battles, and I was winning this day. I remember, and I'm yapping, being smart aleck, saying stuff to me, and he got hot. He said to me, "I'd be careful how I say this." He says, "Someday somebody's going to beat the what out of you, and I'm there to see it happen." Because I was just being, because I was just not. I was. If my son acted like that, I'd smack him around too.
Yeah, it's just teenagers are kind of that's just the way it goes. But I always felt, and I wonder if you think this true. Like I have found the athletes that are a little cocky, sort of borderline, the border between really confident and cocky.
Right.
When you hang out right at that line, so you're not so bad that everyone wants to hate you.
Yeah.
Because that's no good either. Because then they say their absolute best for you. Right. But if you're just confident, like those are the guys you want on your team.
Totally. You want the guys with the swagger. Absolutely.
Yeah, they don't entertain the possibility of pilot error.
Yeah. Totally.
No, I won't fail. I mean, and you speak about that all the time, about the air of invincibility. Yeah. You don't think you'll get injured. You don't think you'll get sick. Yep. You think you're going to succeed. You're flabbergasted when the guy beats you.
Oh, totally. You watch those old videos of the Islanders in their heyday, and the Edmonton Oilers in their heyday. The guys like Mark Messier, and they walked in with that swagger. You're right; they're right on that borderline. I remember Messier guaranteed that win for the Rangers against the Devils. Right? I mean, that was right on the borderline of being cocky, but it was pretty confident. If you're the guy in that team and he's done what he's done in his career and he's acting like that, you're going, hey, we can win this game. This is ours.
Yeah. No, that's right. And we were going to talk before we get too deep into hockey too about Labor Day traditions. As I mentioned before, I have a little house on the lake, and our Labor Day tradition for the last 4 or 5 years has been to go up there. My neighbor is he bought. When you go to the this not state fair, what's it called? The 4-H. Fair, and somebody has raised a prize, whatever. Someone raised a prize lamb, and he bought it, and he's roasting it on Saturday. And so we're having a lamb roast at my neighbor's house, and it looks right now that my whole family, we couldn't get everyone there for the family vacation like we normally do because my daughter was ill, but she's doing pretty well, and she's coming in this weekend. So.
Nice.
We're doing a redo on that. I don't know. Maybe everyone just wants to eat lamb. Although I've got a bunch of vegetarians in my family, so that's not nice. True. But my wife's making hummus to bring to the deal, and some other Mediterranean deal to go with it
nice.
As well.
So she do anything special to her hummus, or pretty basic hummus? Like, do you know?
No, she does. I remember we had this discussion because she couldn't figure out why this restaurant hummus was better than hers, and it had to do with fresh.
That's right.
That's what it was. So she does that. But she doesn't like. I like roasted tomato hummus or something like that, and she does not. It has to be for her plain hummus. So.
Oh, okay.
For whatever that's worth. So that's our tradition. What do you got going?
Well, my boys are older now, so they're 28, and actually Shane, my oldest one, turns 31 September 2nd. It's his birthday every year. It comes to September 2nd. So it's really turned into more if we get together, because they're older now, it isn't it isn't as much. It's more we get together to cook out. Usually it's here, but my son and his wife just bought a house in Rye, New York. So we may come by there. Actually, his in-laws are in town as well. So it really hasn't. It's kind of become not as much the whole family getting together kind of thing. Everybody's got their own stuff going on. So, but we somehow celebrate too. We found a nice new tequila we like, so we'll probably buy a case of that tequila and do our best on that. Yeah.
Does that? I guess that does fit the True Grit lifestyle in one way, but probably not in caloric count, depending on how much you have.
Yeah, I make sure that I clock. I put all my calories into an app, and I include the tequila in there. Yeah, it's just, to me, it's just empty calories. So it's you're not getting anything good for yourself. Well, it's good mentally. That's
it's funny about my children, obviously adult children too. I mean, my oldest child is closer to 40 than not.
That's right.
But I find that my enjoyment level with my children, you think about it how much fun you had when they were kids and they were athletes and you went to everything, and you're thinking, wow, I'm really going to miss that. But I find now I like my children as adults. We have just as much fun. You're talking about different things, and now you're talking about serious stuff, and what their problems is, and it's amazing to me that I can be entertained by a 25-minute discussion with my kids about investing in 401s and what we do, and I like all that. Well, what are you doing, Dad, on this? You being aggressive, and how long should we be aggressive? And and I find that
it's true. Yeah. Both my sons have really done well in the business world too. So sitting around talking business to them is pretty entertaining. Yeah, it is different. Here, Susan brings up a good point here. I don't know why I can't bring this up. Hold on a second.
Susan always brings up good points.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does. Okay. So what's your take on Javier Baez and some teammates giving the thumbs down to the fans? These New York Mets, how would you handle the booze? Well, man, I'll tell you what, Stephen Cohen, just a wealthy multi-billionaire, just bought the team, and was all this promise that they were going to be so good of a team and everything, and it wasn't going to happen right away, and they've really underperformed. And listen, there's no excuse for it. My take on it is these young guys that just did not understand what they're doing in any city, but especially the city like New York, where you've done what you've done and you're underperforming. So the boos are going to come. I mean, we've talked about it so many times. Playing at Madison Square Garden is a fantastic experience. But if you're not working hard enough, you're not performing, the fans will let you know. And like Susan will tell you, she's one of them. The Ranger fans love the Rangers. So when they boo, they're not booing because they don't like you. They're booing you because they love you and they want a better performance. So to give the thumbs down like that, clearly these guys just didn't understand what they got themselves into, because that's definitely the wrong way to handle it. But
sure. I thought their actions were reprehensible, and it's on management to set on them and bring some reality to them. I've always felt that fans are like stockholders. Without fans, you don't get these multi-million-dollar contracts. And, it's the tickets they buy, it's the jerseys they buy. Even if you're not a guy that goes to the games, there's always some way that you contribute to the salaries of players through, buying a souvenir or buying something for your kid.
Absolutely. I remember when you said that the first time you told me that, and I never really looked at it that way, but it's very true. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've got to, you've got to respect the fans. Like you can be mad at your coach, you can be mad at your general manager, but the fans have a right to, boo. And, that's the same way I've always hated it when I, see on the big video screen applaud. You don't, applause is earned. It's earned. You don't beg for it.
I agree.
So,
I agree totally. But speaking of players that are not like them, in fact, you could say hated. The NHL, I think it was NHL.com, had a site. I think it was them saying that, is Tom Wilson the most hated player in the National Hockey League? What's your take?
Yes, I'm going yes on that. Just because, he's been, Marchand, I think when he was going in his heyday was probably number one. And, he probably succeeded like Avery was certainly in that mix as well when he was going. And there have been others. I mean, Eric Lindros was a much hated player. He wore the black hat.
Here's one. I know you like this player too, but here's one that I think, except in his home city, I think a lot of people hate him. Definitely here in New York, Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, I think that's true. He's much hated in Detroit for sure.
Oh, really? In Detroit, really?
Because of that playoff series.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of my funniest stories. I went into Verizon here near my house in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I was getting a new phone. And the guy noted, he asked me what I did for a living. I said, I'm a sports writer. He goes, oh, what are you covering? I said, hockey. And he said, wow, that's my favorite sport. And he said, you must hate Sidney Crosby then. And I said, no, actually, he's one of my favorite players. known him since he was 16. I enjoyed talking to him and everything else. And all of a sudden, it got silent. And he says, he goes, "Do you ever read the statistics?" I said, "Yeah, quite often, actually."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, Ovechkin is just a much better player than Crosby." And I said, "I don't even remember us even discussing Ovechkin. I actually like Ovechkin too." But anyway, I said, "But they're both great players. I don't know how you could call Crosby great." And he just treated me so poorly.
Oh, is that right?
I spoke highly of Sidney Crosby. I almost, I'm just not that kind of guy. But I really considered writing a letter saying, "What the heck? I'm just in here trying to buy a phone, and because I like Sidney Crosby, I get a poor experience."
That's right.
I mean, he did what he was supposed to do, but he didn't treat me.
Yeah. How about the Kachuk up in Calgary? Which one's that? Is that Matthew Kachuk?
Matt Kachuk. Yeah.
Well, he may get in that category. Soon.
Yeah, especially with certain teams. That's true. But going back in time, the point I wanted to make was, I think Eric Lindros was, what I remember most about him is he was a superstar who wore a black hat. We didn't normally see those guys. Like, if a guy was a highly skilled player, it was hard to. You could hate him because he was good, but they didn't hate him. But these people hated Lindros.
Why do you think he was so hated? More the off-ice stuff, like his mother and father and the relationship.
And he was big, and it was everything. Everyone wants to root. They don't want to root for Goliath. They want to root for David. So
such a nice guy off the ice. So like we played in the alumni game against the Flyers, and he was on the ice. It was the outdoor game, and he was flying up and down the ice. And I didn't realize how big he was. And I was just joking around with him. I said, "Hey, slow down out here." He's skating down the ice. "Oh, I'm sorry. He's very apologetic." I said, "Eric, I'm just joking around." He's really a nice guy. Yeah, he's funny.
Yeah, I did. I got along fine with Eric. The time I was there, I didn't really have any, problems with him. But I mean, through the years, if you think back, I'm sure there were people when Gordy played that didn't particularly care for him because he was a dirty player. He was mean. He could be mean. Chris Chelios was a disliked player. I remember the story that Bernie Nichols told me of getting traded to Chicago and getting cut up in a practice from Chelios first because he beat him on a play the play before. So
wow. Well, think of that. You go way back then. You think of like guys like Dennis Potvin with the Islanders, right? I mean, he's hated the Ranger. He comes into Madison Square Garden. That's always entertaining. So,
right. But those polls are always kind of interesting.
It's true.
Because if you're really disliked, it means you're doing something right.
Yeah, totally.
Scott Stevens.
Very true. Yes.
Just because he was a heavy hitter.
Yeah. Here's a good one too. Dave Schultz, obviously. Yes.
He was for sure. Oh, Bobby Clarke.
Yeah.
I remember being a kid and hating Bobby Clarke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the idea that, to me, this is my perception, that Bobby Clarke would stir up trouble, stir up the hornet's nest, and then suddenly the big boys would come and finish it all up, and there Bobby would be standing behind him.
Yeah. You know what else in that cat? Theron Fleury stirred the pot pretty good too.
Oh yeah. Although Theo would be at the front of the line.
Oh yeah, totally. Yes, he would. Oh, I remember one time we had a tough team in LA. Kenny Baumgartner, Dean Kennedy, Jay Wells. We had a big brawl, and he got cut up, but he stayed in there. He got tied up with Kenny Baumgartner, and Baumgartner was trying to get away from him. He didn't want to fight him. He wanted to fight somebody else. And I think he must have hit him, whatever. He was cut and bleeded, and finally ended up with Wayne Gretzky. And Gretzky had to bring him over to the Calgary bench because he was leaking all over the place. So, Ulf Samuelsson too. There's another one. Ulf Samuelsson. Yeah.
Oh yeah, really disliked, especially by Cam Neely.
Yeah. Oh man.
Really. Yeah. It is interesting too. In fairness to Bobby Clarke, his teammates just wouldn't let him get involved. Like he would stir it up, and then they would come and grab him and kind of push him away. And you see that often where the tough guys don't want their stars.
I remember one game in LA when Marty McSorley was with the Kings, and we were playing Edmonton, and Marty went at it, got in a fight with Mark Messier. The rest of the game, the Oilers didn't care about winning or losing anymore. They were just going to fight everybody. It was unbelievable. They sent the message, "Hey, don't be touching Mark, especially if you're Marty McSorley." So it was entertaining. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was there are rules about fighting, and who can fight with whom, and the way that all works, and
Yeah.
they. And now I wonder if those rules are even known, because we don't really have fighting as much as we had before. But like in the old days, heavyweights were only supposed to fight heavyweights.
Yeah, totally.
So
speaking of players who kind of are a polarizing figure, Cam Newton just got cut by the New England Patriots yesterday or the day before. And what I was trying to think of other players in other sports that were so talented as he is. I mean, didn't he win MVP? And to me, he was the most valuable player a few years ago in the National Football League. Talented, big, could run, throw the ball, seemed to know the offense really well. Now just to be outright cut, it's kind of a fall from grace.
It is. Why do you see him as polarizing?
He seemed to be polarizing for all this Superman stuff he did and everything. Didn't like I had a lot of to me it was you know what I mean, like he did all the, but then at the same time it was all about me. But at the same time, when he scored a touchdown or his team scored a touchdown, he'd go give the football to some young child or whatever. It seemed like he was very generous in helping kids and everything too. But then he had this kind of flamboyant way about himself when they did well. But
well, I'll tell you, I almost feel like this could have been worked out between the two of them, because if he wasn't going to be the guy, and it didn't seem like he was in New England, then at least by doing it now, there's a chance he could catch on with somebody.
Yeah, very good point. That's true. Yeah.
He's not a type of guy that wants to be a backup.
And who does Detroit have as a quarterback now? They got the guy from the Rams, right? When they traded.
Yeah, they do. Golf. Yeah, that's his name.
And is he doing well? I mean, because he really didn't do well in LA, right?
Well, yeah, but it's hard to know, because in the preseason they hardly play anybody anymore. He's barely played well, which is good. I think the whole NFL preseason, I wouldn't play it at all. I don't even get why we do that. And I see some people say, well, they hit and it's a way to evaluate, but you're hitting in training camp. You have those little scrimmages, and there's no love lost in NFL training camps, because these guys don't know each other. There's 90 people there. 53 of them were there the previous year. Then there's 40 that hate each other because they're trying to win jobs.
And what's this where they go? I know they've always done it. They go and I think the Giants went into Cleveland and practiced with Cleveland. And then
that's been a sort of a nouveau thing. That's what I'm saying. You're doing those kind of things, so you can really sort of get some, evaluation time on players.
Right.
So I don't. Some football old school people still swear by that football is the last sport where you can go to a training camp and win a job. It's hard to do that in the NHL now. Yeah. It's almost like decisions are made. But here in Detroit, they're talking about there'll be a real competition, whether Lucas Raymond and Joe Veleno and Jonathan Berggren, those are three premium prospects, and basically Steve Yzerman has said they're going to have to earn their job in training camp. So maybe that's the case.
That is true. I wonder how many young kids really have a chance making teams now, right? I mean, they know the kids so well now, and they train so much during the summer. It's not like when I came to Rangers camp, they had to see me. They saw me play in college. Then I came to New Haven, their farm team, played in the playoffs. But then after that, they didn't see me all summer long until I came to training camp. I obviously had a good training camp.
It's interesting. There's an issue here too that I should get you to speak to, because you're better qualified than me. But I'll give you my thoughts on it anyway. I've always felt, right or wrong, that when you're a poor team, go ahead and bring the younger player up, because you're basically selling hope to your fans. And I think fans have become sophisticated enough that they get, they can look at the acorn and envision the tree. They can sort of do that. And, you got to give your fans something, like if you're in Buffalo, and, they don't have to do that. But if Owen Power had said he was coming out and he wasn't quite ready, I would still put him on the team, because your fans want to watch that and see that. Now, the argument is, yeah, but you don't learn as much. You're better off going to a place where you can dominate and all that kind of stuff. So walk me through that argument. How do you see that? I like the youngsters playing.
Right. In the old days, there was a few things at play there. First of all, if he wasn't totally ready to play, you wonder, okay, you're going to ruin his confidence, right? He comes in, makes mistakes, gets pushed around, doesn't do well. Then that was his theory that he was going to ruin his confidence. And he'd come up and be ready to play, as a more mature young man, physically, mentally, all that stuff. And there's also the concern that if you give these young kids too much and they're not ready for it, they get a little bit like, I don't know if it's disrespectful. They don't appreciate it as much. They don't treat the older players as. Now that's changed a little bit over time. When I started and before that, in that whole era, it was meant these young kids. If you want to come in as a young player, okay, if you're good enough, but you better act properly, both in the locker room, on the ice, off the ice. You better act like a man. So it was, again, that goes way back to the days of hazing and that kind of stuff, which was totally useless. But so I can see, I really think it depends on the player too. Like, a Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews, those guys come in and they were like, and I say this as a compliment to them, like freakishly mature. Beyond where they should be, and they seem to handle it both on and off the ice very well. But you look at a guy like Nathan McKinnon in Colorado. I talk about him so much. Who, again, I believe is, if not the best, but one of the best players in the National Hockey League now. He really struggled his first 2 or 3 years. He just wasn't mature enough mentally or physically to do it. So you wonder. I mean, again, but here he is now as one of the top players. So it certainly didn't hurt his game. But that was the theory in the past that, listen, okay, you don't want to ruin their confidence. And, are they mature enough to handle it all and treat people around them the right way too? So I think the game has changed so much now, though, like that whole, like we talked about Zdeno Chara, he was quoted, how do the young players get treated there? How do the rookies get treated? Are they treated differently? He says, nope, if you're on our team, you're on our team. Doesn't matter if you're a rookie player or not. Now, you have the responsibility as a rookie player to show respect to the older players. But so that whole mentality has certainly changed. And there's no kind of rite of passage like there used to be.
Yeah, I've never really understood that. And it's based on this. Now, I've been a writer for 40 years, and I've interviewed a lot of players about the old traditions and stuff, especially hazing. And what I find about it is, who really liked it? It was ridiculous. Like, you hear these stories about, the shaving of the players and all that kind of stuff. And I have yet to interview someone who said, that was so much fun when I got shaved. Yeah. And
it doesn't even, like, the theory would be, okay, it's kind of like, again, that rite of passage. So now I'm shaved, now I'm one of the guys. That wasn't the case at all. If anything, it was ridiculous.
Well, and the other thing that bothered me about it is there are guys who said have told me, it was humiliating and it was awful and all that kind of stuff. And then I said, well, did you do it when it was your turn? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, why?
You know what's, Kevin, it's true. Because I think back to myself, like, why I did participate in it. And to be honest with you, I'm embarrassed that I did. I did nothing because the team was everything to me, and I was a team player. I had to be a team player. That didn't do anything to help the team. So
it's funny, but I feel differently about the current tradition of making the rookies buy dinner. Yeah. Like, to me, that's not humiliating. It's kind of fun.
It's more of a bonding thing. The guys are all at the dinner ordering bottles.
And it's not like the minimum salary is such that they can afford one $3,000 dinner. Yeah. They can, and everybody knows about it. Yeah. And to be honest, the way teams are now, it wouldn't shock me that somebody making $8 million saying say wink wink, hey, just pay the bill, and tomorrow I'll give you $300.
Yeah. I agree 100%. You're right. The hazing was divided players. Yeah. Some guys didn't like it. It happened, and some, definitely the guys that got it didn't like it. It was ridiculous. I guess it's just I think back to myself, like the thought process. We did it in college even, and I guess we just felt like we grew up in that environment that was just part of the environment. I don't know why. Again, like when I coach kids now, like I coached a high school team a few years ago, and I said there'd be no hazing, no in any way. It does nothing to help the team. And the seniors were disappointed because they had gotten hazed when they were younger, so they wanted their chance to get the guys back. But I just said that's stopping. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes those kinds of traditions become self-fulfilling. They've been going on for so long that everyone just thinks you're making a list of what you got to do when you take up as captain. You got to say, okay, well, no, we got to haze, because that's the way it is. Yeah, totally. It's really, really, really silly. So,
So really quick then, okay, what's on the menu for your Labor Day? I'm trying to think of what we're going to have.
We're going, I got a family grouping. One of my daughters they couldn't make the family vacation is coming in for Labor Day. And we always say she's the most favorite Alan. So now, like, everybody's coming back again.
Right.
Well, they all had other plans, but they're changing them because she's coming.
Okay.
So,
She's not, that's good.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
Well,
Will she pick the menu, or who picks the menu?
no, I mean, we generally everybody sort of takes turns. Like, everybody can cook in our house. So, like, one day my son, I think I told you, he did some chicken and biscuits because he's very good at that. He makes great pizzas, not just throwing it on a flatbread, but make his own dough and all that. He's a great pizza maker. All my daughters can cook vegetarian meals, and it's funny, I was just talking to my wife about that. I don't like everything that goes on in the menu making, because just some of it is just not my cup of tea.
Right.
I'm not a tofu eater.
Right.
But I'll eat them. I'll be a good sport and give it a go. And it's not anything.
I've actually added. Your wife obviously will know about this. I've added a new, that's like a big secret, but new little what we call it, little something else to my smoothie. Matcha. Ever had matcha, the green tea?
Yeah, I haven't, but I wouldn't be shocked if.
Your wife probably. Ooh, apparently, it's a lot like sea moss. A lot of benefits. One of them is helping your libido. We won't get into that, helping the libido. But it's a lot great for your energy, everything. So my smoothie now is just like packed with energy food. Like,
I gotta say, my wife is back into making smoothies again too, and I just don't enjoy them. I give it a go. I've tried, and my grandkids. My oldest grandchild, like, she had one and it had pumpkin and things in it, and she really enjoyed it. And I tasted it, and it was edible, but not something
And mine look worse, and probably it looks worse when I'm making it too, because the banana's got the skin on it, and you keep it in the freezer, and the skin goes brown. If you have it in the freezer, it's still good and everything, but it just goes brown. So it looks terrible, but it's tasty.
My wife likes spicy, and in the summertime, I don't know whether you like gazpacho soup, the cold soup. I do like it, but my wife made it the other day, and it tasted exactly the same, except for it was just spicy as all get out. Right. And she said, "Oh, I decided to throw some jalapeno peppers in it."
Oh, she did. Oh, yeah, nice.
Like why did we need those? But she liked it that way, so we give it a go. I had gazpacho recently that was served from a restaurant, and it's the first time I ever had it where they had, like, really, it was chunky, like they had real bits of celery and onion and stuff. So you got, when you were eating it, you got like a mouthful of vegetables.
What is gazpacho? What is it?
It's like a tomato soup, but it's cold.
Okay. Yes.
Soup, and it's it's just vegetables. It's a vegetarian deal, but I like it. I like the taste of it, and but with the spiciness, it was gone. Before we go, we're way overboard here, but we got the big decision coming up for the Montreal Canadiens about Kotkaniemi in Carolina, and the point I want to make on that is, if their aim was to punish Marc Bergeron, for the offer sheet to Aho, I think they've really done a good job, because I think this is a real difficult decision for him to make, because no matter what he does, he is going to be under, not that he's not always under the microscope in Montreal, but it's going to be worse. Ooh. Because if he doesn't take Kotkaniemi and he ends up being a terrific player, then he'll take grief for that. If he takes the first and third round pick and then can't get another center, which I think is going to be difficult, then he's going to get grief for that. If he uses the draft pick and the player is not real good and Kotkaniemi is good, he's going to get grief for that. There are a lot of different ways for him to take grief. So I don't envy him. I don't think this is as simple as people are making it out to be.
I agree totally. It's not simple at all, I don't think. And add to that, they went to the finals last year with a team that probably really wasn't that good of a team to get to the finals. I give them total credit for getting there.
Yeah.
So in all likelihood, they're not going to get back to the finals. So that looks like a failure as well. If you don't keep Kotkaniemi and then you don't go as far, or God forbid, you don't even make the playoffs, gets even worse too. So So but I read an article, I can't remember where it was a TSN or something, that they didn't think it was retaliation on Carolina's part. Did you see something where?
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, the wording of the press release was exactly the same,
Right.
Or very similar to what Montreal did.
Right.
About how they saw a bright future with the player and
Right.
blah blah blah, and the $20 signing bonus, and oh yeah, this was total revenge.
Okay.
So I mean, you can say what you want on but I will say this: I think Carolina wanted the player. I think they like him. I think he has, connection to the Finns that are there. I think they see as a player that could fit nicely, and they think this could be the breakthrough year. And Carolina's got a nice team.
And it's a little gamble on Carolina's part too, because you got a player that wasn't even dressed for some games in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, but don't you think? And boy, I'm going to step out on the plank on this, but I don't really think that the Canadians have handled him all that well. I can't put my finger on exactly what bothered me about it, but it didn't feel like he was always in roles to succeed. He was the number 3 pick overall, and this is always the case. I find it interesting with younger players, and I've said this before, but especially with a player who was a high pick, when he doesn't do well in one place, wherever he goes, that team says, well, he failed in another place, but we know what we're doing with prospects.
Yeah.
Fine. So.
No, very true. And it is different in Montreal too. So there's so much pressure to win there, right? It isn't like you get a lot of time for these young kids to develop because of the pressure to win on the coach. Coaches are getting fired, pressure on the general manager, pressure on the owner. I mean, Montreal is not a lot of cities like that, but Montreal is definitely like that. So
yeah, for sure.
So what are we predicting there? Are we predicting he's staying in Montreal, or what do we say?
No, I think they're going to take the compensation.
Really? So that's just your guess, or do you know?
Yeah, just to get no, I don't know, but that's a guess that he's going to try to turn that in to another center.
Well, then I'm going to say I'll have to go against you, and I'm saying that he'll stay in Montreal.
Yeah, well, for sure you have to go against me. That's just the way we roll. All right, everybody. We hope everyone has a great Labor Day. If you want to read what I have to say about things, I'm at hockeybuzz.com or DetroitHockeyNow.com.
Right. Again, if you want to listen to the radio version of this show, you can go to radio.co at 365 Sports. Are we having a show on Monday? Labor Day?
We are not.
We're not. So we won't see you for another week.
Yes, right? That's right.
Don't be afraid to have fun, eat properly, but eat well, and then get out and exercise. Okay, let's go get it done.
And check out Tom's Sunday dinner for sure.
Yes, we're definitely having that.